What's going on, guys? Fizz here once again. So this video is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be me rating all league mechanics that are still in the game and putting them, like, in my opinion, in different tiers based on like how well they're implemented in the game. This isn't some of these will have their strength factored in, but for most of it, it's not really about the strength. It's about the implementation in the core game, how well it's implemented and how fun or interesting rather it is to interact with the content. Do note that this list that I found did not have ritual in it, and I would put ritual. Oh wait, never mind. Ritual's right there. Just kidding. I guess I think someone asked me that, and I was like, damn, you're right. It's not there. It is there. Never mind. Okay, so I guess we'll start in F tier and we'll move up. So Prophecy and Parandus, by the way, they're not in because, like I said, in the game 3.17, it won't be in the game anymore, so there's no point talking about it. So I don't think I'm gonna get any kickback on this one. Talisman and Torment, take these out of the game. They're ridiculous. Warbands, Tempest as well. Like, everything from here back serves no purpose in the game and is not interesting to interact with whatsoever. You could take this away from the game and no one would really notice. You might have a few less deaths in hardcore due to less people dying to martyrs, but other than that, I don't really think anybody would care. Moving on, we have Metamorph. I hate interacting with Metamorph. I don't like catalysts. I think they're boring and grindy. Metamorph in general just isn't interesting, never has been, in my opinion. And on top of that, like, you have like the special boss, like the unique body parts you collect, and it leads up to like literally nothing. Like there's no actual like boss fight from it. I don't know. It felt like a super half-baked league, which was fine because we got Conquerors and all the other cool stuff in Metamorph League. But overall, like, this as an actual standalone league mechanic, I don't think it should be in the game. Heist. If you're new here, I'm sorry. If you're not, you know that I hate Heist. Everything about Heist is just anti-fun to me. I actively avoid Heist in the base game. I mean, to like my own detriment. If I only cared about like peak optimization of gameplay and being efficient, I would be doing Heist. But I cannot bring myself to interact with Heist 9 times out of 10 because it is awful to play. I'm sure some people out there like Heist. But I think Endless Heist spoke for itself. Maybe with some changes it could be mildly more interesting for me, but I absolutely hate Heist, and I hate having to interact with it. Now next up, the last thing we have in F tier is Harvest. So this might surprise a lot of you, especially how often I talk about Harvest and how important it is in SSF. That's precisely why I have it in F tier. It's like oppressively overpowered to the point where 90% of your gameplay in SSF will revolve around Harvest. You basically live in Hayward Hamlet. Like, it's mandatory if you're playing SSF to interact with Harvest, and that's why I hate it so much. I'm not opposed to what Harvest gives. I think it's really strong and it's really good, especially in SSF. I'm opposed to the gameplay mechanics that encompass it, simply because Harvest, you know, from its core like inception was like never like an interesting or super fun mechanic. I actually bowed out of Harvest League super early. I hated the gardens when you had to individually place the seeds and all that. I hated setting it all up. It like bored me to tears. I absolutely hated it. I actually noped out of Harvest really quick. You know, the different iterations that came afterwards were more or less okay. Some of them worse, some of them slightly better, but overall, the core mechanics of Harvest are just very not fun, and in a lot of ways are actually pretty bullshit because if you think about how it worked in Harvest League was like its own individual like instance. So it didn't have interactions with map modifiers, but as soon as they put it in the core game and it wasn't its own league and it started popping up in maps, the Harvest monsters started having some crazy interactions with map modifiers, because if you remember, the Harvest Gardens themselves already have like tons of more damage, more life multipliers, and all sorts of stuff like that. When you throw that on top of like Awakening level and map mods, some of the Harvest monsters just get absolutely insane, and it's very anti-fun. I'm sure there's so many rip clips every league from people just getting instantly deleted from Harvest monsters. And that is like a major design oversight in my opinion, and that they still haven't fixed it. Just honestly, I hate that. I hate that they still haven't fixed it. So they either need to like massively rework Harvest or just take this crap out of the game. Again, I am a fan of what it offers, but it is like oppressively OP and super annoying to interact with. So bringing this back in some other type of more interesting mechanic would be really cool. Moving on, we have Invasion at the bottom of D tier. These are like roughly ordered, by the way. Invasion monsters are like whatever. If you like, again, this isn't necessarily based on strength, right? Because then Harvest would be an S tier, not F tier. But like Invasion's pretty good with like the Atlas passives you give. And it feels good in that way of like you take exotic goods, you run through, you get a bunch of 6 links, you get like 5 chaos drops here, 10 silver coins here, a bunch of sextants here, like every map you're running in Lyra Arthane. That feels really good and it's really cool, but that mechanic doesn't need to interact with Invasion, you know what I mean? Like the Lyra Arthane exotic goods mechanic could just make like 1 random rare in every map, like or 3 rares in every map have those exotic goods or whatever. Like it doesn't rely on Invasion to work, you know what I mean? So if like we look at Invasion itself, it's like 1 random unique boss or multiple in a area, and 9 times out of 10 they're not really bosses at all. They just instantly fall over. They might as well be a white monster. A lot of them are like squishier than like normal rare packs rather. Moving on, Onslaught. I don't really know how to rate this. Like the Onslaught mechanic is great. Onslaught's sick in terms of like the buff you get, but that's it. That's really the only way it interacts with the game. So I mean, this didn't even need to be in the tier list really. Nemesis rare mods and Bloodlines magic mods, I put them in here too. I mean, I guess they're okay. It adds more like variance to like magic and rare modifiers, I guess. I mean, that's cool. It doesn't really impact gameplay a whole lot. I mean, some of the Bloodlines ones do, like, you know, Corrupting Blood would come to mind and stuff like that, but really it's like whatever. It adds a little bit more variance, things you gotta look out for during general gameplay. Rogue Exiles, again, these are like super whatever. I think the baseline for this tier list is honestly C tier or B tier. Like B tier is probably like this is fine. C tier is like this needs a little bit of work. D tier is like I'm kind of like struggling to see where this fits in the game, and F tier is like just completely rework it or delete it. Rogue Exiles are like that. I'm kind of like struggling to see, like, I'm sure back in the day it was like super good. It gave like a lot of like rares and stuff, but modern day PoE, there's like, you don't really care about these guys at all, really. Beyond's cool, I guess. If you're juicing XP and stuff, it's really nice. But like if we look at it from like its core like implementation into the game, honestly, it's pretty annoying. Running through a map and then like you have to like backtrack a little bit because a bunch of corpses popped and now there's a bunch more monsters there that weren't there before, and it's kind of like the waiting on them to spawn thing is just kind of annoying. Legion. I was never a huge fan of Legion. Obviously the timeless jewels are awesome, but the actual mechanic itself is whatever. I guess the domain of timeless conflict is kind of interesting, I guess, but for the most part it's just nothing that Legion offers is really fun, except randomly sometimes just getting one shot if you get unlucky by the shield bash boys and the spear throwing ones. Like again, yeah, like Legion is just like, it doesn't really make sense why it's in the game, and honestly they could like move timeless jewels into like some other aspect, or make like just take the splinter aspect out of Legion and like have some other way to get timeless jewels and interact with the generals in the domain of timeless conflict would probably be the way to go, for at least in my opinion, because especially in the current iteration of PoE, Glennick Cairns felt really bad in SSF, at least this league anyway. It feels really bad when like I have like my Atlas full spec for Glen, Legion rather, and I'm like going through these maps and then like full spec all passives for Legion, and I'm getting like, from full clearing the whole thing, I'm getting like 3 or 4 splinters sometimes, whereas I can throw in a tier 1 Scourge map and get like 50 splinters. Like, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I've never been a huge fan of like gathering the splinters and stuff. It's just feels gross to me, and the actual mechanic itself, again, not that fun. Harbinger, honestly, Harbinger is like, it's okay. I actually don't mind it. It's just, it feels weird in the current game, especially with a lot of the nerfs they've done to it. So this is a mix of like its power and how it feels to play. I think Harbinger is one of those things that definitely can feel good to interact with if it's rewarding enough. And right now I feel like it kind of isn't. I'm sure we all remember the, I can't remember what it's called, the Stranger, or like the backup, the ally, whatever it was called. The one that made you have like 7 bajillion Harbingers in your map, in the in Ritual League, I think it was, where like people's PCs were getting bricked and you could get like crazy XP and people were farming hundreds of ancient orbs, and Steel Mage somehow got 2 headhunters by ancient orbing, things like that may have been a little bit overkill, but I think you could strike a little bit of a balance, because right now taking those nodes in the region feels really bad. And again, Harbinger I think is just one of those things where it can feel good in its current iteration, but it just needs to feel a little bit more rewarding to like make me want to constantly stop and kill every Harbinger I see. Even it is still rewarding in its current form. I'm not saying it's not. I think it could just be a little bit more, so it could be up here with, you know, these guys. Synthesis. So Synthesis is another, I was one of those people, a lot of people say this, I was one of those people who quit Synthesis super early on. And you know, they all, you know, people always say like, yeah, the first month of Synthesis was horrible and then it was the best league ever. Like you hear that all the time. But I was one of those people that didn't stick around for that. I didn't see what that was. The current implementation of the game of Synthesis maps and stuff at endgame, it's okay, but I think it could be better. I would like to actually see and experience kind of what people talk about when they say Synthesis was actually super good. I would like to see it kind of like an endgame standalone system, kind of like Delve or something that you could interact with. It's kind of sad that they didn't do that, especially with how positive the end result was actually received by the community. I would like to be able to go back and you know, experience this in some modicum after they, you know, fixed everything, but I'm pretty safe to assume that's not going to happen, but I would like to see it. It's down in D tier simply because it's like, I mean, when you think about it, you have a few endgame maps with some map bosses, and that's really it. And the thing that I hate the most about the Synthesis interactions is that the map mods are completely random. So a lot of times it feels really bad. You finally get your Cortex, you open it, and it's like triple damage mods with like crit multi and multi-prod. Just like, well, I can't run this map. I literally can't do it. It's so hard to get a Cortex, and then I can't run the map. That feels really, really bad. And again, I am going through all this with like a HCSSF perspective. So if you're in Trade League and what I said just doesn't apply to you, sorry, this is just my opinion. Okay, so moving on, we have C tier. So at the bottom of C tier, we have Blight. So Blight's really weird. It's like one of those things where I'll interact with it a lot for the first like 3 or 4 days of the league. And then I pretty much have enough oils at that point to just carry myself through the rest of the league. Maybe having to visit a little bit more towards the end, depending on how many like private leagues and event stuff goes on. You know what I mean? Or like if I end up playing a build that needs like golden and 2 opalescence or something like that, or maybe I go back and do a little bit more Blight. But it's kind of like that. I don't really hate it. I don't love it. And it's not one of those things I'm going to interact with unless I really need Blight oils for an anoint. So it's fine. It's not super engaging, but it definitely still has a place in the game in my opinion. Incursion. Now personally, I hate Incursion. I haven't interacted with Incursion in quite a long time. I can't remember the last time I did a temple. To really think about it, I can't remember the last time I did a temple. I know that it's good in terms of like early red map sustain, just like Delve is and stuff like that. But I just something about running the temple, man. The Temple of Atsuatl, I think I don't know. I feel like I got my fair share of Incursion during Incursion League, and that feeling has still not left me to this day. But it does still have a, you know, a decent place in the core game. I feel like it is starting to get slowly like prepped out of the game. Like I think like 6 months from now to a year, it would probably be down here at the top of D, assuming no changes or anything. That's just my opinion. Breach. Now Breach is really cool. I can't speak too much on this, so that's why it's at the top of C. I've never like spec'd my Atlas for Breach. I've never really felt the need to, because like I'm not like farming like pure breach stones for rotas, and I'm not like, that's very like, a lot of the breach stuff is like very Trade League centric, and it's not very applicable to SSF. So just without any Atlas investment into it, it's like a really whatever mechanic. It's fine. I know a lot of people like to invest in it in Trade Leagues, so it's C tier. It's okay. It's nothing crazy, and you probably need some Atlas passives to make it really worthwhile. Moving up, we have Rampage at the bottom of B, just because Rampage is awesome. I don't really know how like the league mechanic itself fits in the base game, because I didn't play Rampage, but Rampage itself is really cool. And I wish they would add more uniques or more items with Rampage on them. One thing that I think would be really cool, maybe in PoE 2, is adding an ascendancy based around Rampage. Now, there is the caveat that that would be probably really, really hard to balance, because it would either be like overbearing if you want to make like a speed mapping build or something, or just completely dog water. Just because of how Rampage works. Like, you know, it would be like, I don't know, like Berserker except for Rampage or something. I don't know. Or maybe add it to Berserker and take away the crit nodes, because screw the crit nodes. Hopefully no one likes the crit nodes out there, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Rampage is cool. Add more of it to the game, in my opinion. Abyss is just fine. I interact with Abyss when I need Stygian Vise and when I need the jewels. Outside of that, I'm probably just flame dashing over the crack, to be honest. That being said, there are, it feels fine even without investment. That's the difference between Breach and Abyss, is that even if I have like no points in the Atlas tree spec'd into Abyss, which I've never done, I probably won't do for the foreseeable future, there's still reasons for me to interact with it, and it's not like I don't groan when I have to interact with it, right? I get a Delve, or I get like a Abyssal Depths rather, and then I get a Lich. That's really cool. Like, I like those interactions. I have the chance to get a really cool unique or whatever. I do think most of the uniques now, though, are kind of like power crept and nerfed. Like, I would like to see Shroud of the Lightless actually be like usable or good again. That'd be really cool. Maybe not the like overbearingly OP like state that it was in when it came out, but it would be cool to see it like, you know, return in some amount instead of just being another dead item. I have ambush strong boxes in B tier, like the middle of B tier, because it's like it adds to the gameplay. It doesn't take away from the gameplay. Like, no one's like crying that they're getting a bunch of strong boxes in their map. It's just nice. It doesn't like something super important to me is like map flow. I don't really, as you can probably tell based on this list, I don't really like things that kind of rip me out of the flow of my map. I like things that kind of like add to it instead of like take me out of the action. That's why I hate things like Harvest and Heist and Metamorph and Blight and stuff like that so much, and Legion. Like Strongbox, you just pop it, kill everything, keep moving. It doesn't hold you up at all. Moving on, it's the same thing with Bestiary, actually. It's the exact same thing. So you just kind of like, you have like a bunch of like little mini bosses in the map, you kill them and you move on. And there's still a lot of uses from Bestiary. With the flash changes, that got a little bit less useful because now you can only put like the bottom like tier affix on a flask. But like split craft is still really good. The 6-link craft is still really good. If you're target farming some kind of unique, doing that is really nice. I don't think I've ever used the currency ones, but there's still useful stuff out of Bestiary, and you can just throw it in the map. It doesn't mess with the flow at all. Not really. And then on top of that, the XP from it isn't that bad either. So it's just pretty smooth mechanic to interact with, still has uses, and not a lot of like friction there in terms of like how I play the game. Delirium. Now, Delirium's the top of B. Delirium's not something I really like to interact with it a whole lot, simply because I just don't really like building around cluster jewels mostly, especially with the introduction of masteries on the tree and stuff. Very few builds will I ever put cluster jewels in. With cluster jewels getting nerfed and then masteries getting added to the tree, and then cluster jewels basically getting indirectly nerfed by that as well. That being said, there's still tons of builds even in HCSSF that have like a place with cluster jewels. They can still be good, but I personally, 9 times out of 10, if I'm 3 crafting a build, I do my absolute best to not have to rely on cluster jewels at all. I don't like farming cluster jewels. I don't like that they're locked behind Delirium, and it's not a mechanic that I personally like interacting with that much. That's all it really is. But I know a lot of people like it, and it is strong, and it does go with what I said, where it doesn't interrupt map flow pretty much at all. So solid B+ there. Now at the bottom of A, moving into the next tier. So these are like above average or pretty good things, right? So we have Ritual. I think Ritual is very smooth, even though my typical like interaction with Ritual is I go in, I do all the rituals in the map, I leave the map, I put in a new map, start running through the map, and then like 3 maps later, when I see another ritual, I remember that 5 maps ago, I didn't actually buy anything from that last ritual. And then I get sad. And then I do it again in that map. And then I remember 5 maps from that one that I didn't buy anything in the previous one. That's typically how my gameplay loop with ritual is. Maybe if the button like glowed or blinked or something, once you complete all of the rituals in the map, that would be cool for people like me. But that's my only gripe with it. I mean, it's really, you don't have to interact with it if you don't want to. I think the only thing that, like, if you wanted to, like, bump a ritual from A into S, make monsters spawn a little bit faster, and, like, just get rid of the splinters, man. Like, or the blood vial splinter things. Like, why are they even in the, like, league mechanic, man. Like, nobody interacts with them. Everyone who did ultimately concluded that it wasn't worth the juice. Like, it doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, just add more monsters, increase the spawn rate, take the blood splinters out, and it would probably go up to A tier, I think. It also really shines once you like invest Atlas points into it. I would say the big downside of Ritual in terms of the Atlas tree is that it's contending with both Essence and Harvest all in Haywork, which is that's a tough decision to make. But as again, like an SSF Andy, I'm always going to go with the things that help me craft my gear more reliably, being Harvest and Essence over Ritual. That's just the way it is. I would like it if they move Ritual to like a different region that has like less competition for important nodes. Moving on, we have Betrayal. Now, Betrayal would have been way lower on this list without some of the very recent quality of life changes. I really like, you get the craft once now and you get all of them. Redundant things have been removed like that. They took away like item level requirements on a lot of the crafts, finding crafts like Trigger Wand and stuff like that. It's been made a lot more smooth recently. Now, the actual mechanic itself, it does take you out of the gameplay a little bit. I really would like if they made it do like the ultimatum freeze when you're interacting with the bosses or the syndicate members, so you don't like randomly get clapped by a worm in like the research facility while you're trying to like decide who to kill and who to, you know, save or whatever. But in its current iteration, I think Betrayal is pretty healthy. You get an endgame boss if you decide to do it. That does have some interesting uniques. And there's lots of stuff that you can stand to gain both in Trade League and in SSF from interacting with this mechanic, and it tends to be pretty painless and smooth for the most part. But could do with a few improvements if they really wanted to bump it up into like one of the best league mechanics in terms of how it's currently implemented. But like I said, a lot of the quality of life stuff they added recently really helps. So moving on, Domination, Shrines basically. I think Shrines just enhance base gameplay. Outside of the like Immortal Shrine, like the allies cannot be killed shrine. Why is that still in the game? Other than that, everything's fine. Gloom Shrine is so good. I wish they would make it even more common on Sextant rolls, to be honest. Gloom Shrine's amazing. Or make it available without a Sextant. That'd be sick. But yeah, it's like one of those typical like things taken from D2. You know, shrines are a thing in like every ARPG now. Like, it's just a part of the game. They're very seamless. They don't interrupt your map flow at all. They don't add a ton to gameplay depth or anything like that, but they're like super painless, and you know, why not have them in the game? They don't really hurt anything. So moving on to S tier, there's only two league mechanics here. We have Delve and Essence. So we'll go over Delve first. I think Delve's really good in its current spot. I think it obviously could do with some improvements. They could add new biomes, or you know, just like a little bit more housekeeping, I guess, around Delve would be cool. The changes this league really helped, in my opinion. It made Delve feel a lot better, especially the Delve scaling with your level. That was super OP actually for SSF, and like sustaining maps and stuff like that. It felt really nice. Without the changes this league, it probably would have been like high B tier for me, or like low A. This league, I interacted with Delve so much after not really interacting with Delve a whole lot, like for the past year or so. So Delve feels really good now. It's really good XP, it's really good gear, it's really good in SSF and trade. The mechanic itself is pretty fun, and it's like, it's something that you just go. There, you know, it doesn't like really remove you out of the game, and like when you're mapping, you just grab the soul fight, you don't have to really think about it. And now with your soul fight cap starting so much higher, and it's so much easier to increase it to a really, you know, reasonable amount, that you don't feel like, oh, I capped soul fight, I need to go Delve now for half an hour and then go back. You know what I mean? Like, it feels very healthy in its current state. It's very relevant endgame wise, and it's very fun and fluid to interact with. Lastly, Essence. This may surprise a lot of people. These, you could like interchange these. I don't really think, you know, it matters that much. Now, this isn't to say these two mechanics are perfect. I just think they're better than the rest, so they take the S tier. Why Essence? Well, after they buffed Essences a few leagues ago, Essence feels really nice to craft with. You can get a bunch of guaranteed Essences in all your maps in Haywork, and they're just really strong, and it just kind of like, it just adds to the map and doesn't really take anything away. Again, it's like I said, mapping fluidity is like really important to me. It doesn't like add a whole lot in terms of like gameplay depth, but I think it's like a super healthy mechanic. The strength of Essence feels fair. Like the ability to farm essence feels fair, and it doesn't take me out of my like again, my like mapping flow. So it's just very smooth, and I wish more mechanics could be up to the standard of both like strength and fluidity in terms of like how I interact with the end game. Sorry, I smacked you guys a few times throughout the video. Anywho, I'm sure this is going to tilt a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to let me know that I'm like crazy for thinking these things, and hopefully some people agree with me. At the end of the day, it is just an opinion, but you guys be sure to let me know down below like how far off the mark I was, how much you guys agree with me, where would you put certain things, etc., etc. I'm sure, like, obviously I'm looking through this like the HESSF lens, so not only would this differ largely based on the person, but also like what, you know, what mode of the game you play. Like, I'm sure like how I rate this and how like a software trade player would rate this would be completely different, or like a even just like a software SSF player would probably rate stuff super differently on this list, or like a hardcore trade player, you know, like I'm sure everyone has like a way different lens they view the game from based on the mode they play, but for me this is it. Anywho, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave me a thumbs up. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a thumbs down, tell me what you think I can do better, and if you enjoy the videos, maybe consider subbing. I'm trying to hit 1K before the end of next league, which hopefully should be doable. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Let me know if you made it this far, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.